Good morning. This is going to be a short video, I hope, and welcome back to the channel. This is Lock&Hackle. I'm your host, Tim. First off, let me explain the name of the channel, Lock&Hackle. Lock coming from lock, stock, and barrel. The old English term for the locking mechanism on a double barrel shotgun side by side over under double barrel rifle, the lock. Hackle coming from the feather that you would use to tie a fly. So being an outdoorsman, Lock&Hackle seemed like a pretty cool name. It's also sounds like block and tackle, which is a naval term, block and tackle. Today I want to talk about some reference material for fly fishing, fly tying, the sport of fishing, if you will. There are so many different avenues. The number one thing is the internet. We all use Google and YouTube hence I'm on here right now. But some of that stuff it detracts. You know, when you're watching someone fly fishing and you're watching someone tie a fly and you're watching somebody travel to out west or New Zealand or South America or places like that, you know, you're not really doing it. You're just watching it through, you know, whether your computer screen, your TV, or your phone. You know, being kind of an old school person myself and maybe nostalgia, I don't know. I like old things, things from the past. And what's really nice about fly fishing is it is one of the oldest sports when it comes to the sporting world. There's references to using an artificial fly back in Mesopotamia and the Egyptians and Romans. So it is something that was used to obviously catch food. I'm not sure if it was done as a luxury thing, but it was definitely written about. And the neat thing about that is it's still being written about. Not nearly as much as it used to be, for the simple fact that you do have podcasts and blogs and vlogs and YouTube and so on and so forth. So when you are out and about, there are modern day books that you can get. One is like new paperbacks that you can find by authors like John Guyrack, Thomas McGuane, different people like that. And these are, you know, short stories. Each one is, you know, compiled of different adventures and misadventures, species, the tackle that was used. So, you know, these are, you know, it's, you know, their stories, and you can read that and you can subject yourself into that story, because if you're out there doing it, then you can get the irony of what he's talking about, the comedy, the mishaps, the missteps, everything that happens while you're out there. They just have a better eloquent way of putting it into print to where you can go, oh yeah, I remember that. You know, or if it's someplace, you know, you're having to go to a doctor's office or something like that, you know, having something like this to read, you can get on your phone, you can do all that, you can watch a video. But I think getting the language down and into your cerebellum is a really good way to retain the information. You're watching a video, a lot of times you're not really paying attention. You're watching it, but you're not really paying attention. If you're going to read something, you are going to remember it, I hope. So I'm going to go over a few things. If you just want to read about people fly fishing, there are plenty of authors that you can find. Now, if you're really curious about fly fishing and how what was then is actually still true now, go to your local used bookstore and you can find books. Some of the greatest books that you didn't even know that existed about fly fishing can be found, and they can be found cheap. One of the first books I got it's a reproduction. This is Favorite Flies and Their Histories, put together by Mary Marbury, who was the daughter of the Orvis Company. This was initially printed in 1898, and this is a reproduction. I think it was printed in the 1970s. I've put Post-its to separate the plates. There are different plates in here that have different flies, and then you can go through and look up the flies. You can read the story of the flies that were, where they were made, how they came about, the guy that designed it, why he designed it that way, what it was supposed to imitate, or if not imitate anything, just be an attractant fly, something like that. Great book to have to your collection. Great reference book. There's a great historical data in here about the transfer of English fly fishing to the colonies, you know, how it came here to the United States and became the proper form of fishing. You can go, and if you want to go even further, Joe Brooks, the grandfather of American fly fishing, wrote several books. A lot of them were not printed. They were printed in the 1940s up until like the 1970s, and they were printed by Outdoor Life. You can find them here, Trout Fishing, by Joe Brooks. I actually have two of his books. This one was printed in like 1971, and then the next one, the first one I have, this one was printed in like 1950. I keep it in the bag. It's amazing because in here, fiberglass rods didn't exist yet. You were still using bamboo, and they were developing fiberglass, and it was becoming a niche type thing. In here, in this book, it's pretty much nothing but fiberglass rods. So you can see the progression, the growth, how leaders changed. You know, we went from a weird alphanumerical system on leaders and tippets, like a BB or a GF or an NDN or something like that, to just a 1X, 2X, 3X, 4X leader and tippet. That's fly fishing. Now, if you want to get into fly tying, you can get, you know, very modern books on fly tying. Here's one, very simple. It's called Simple Flies. This was released about 2 years ago. One of my favorite books for tying flies. Very simple. Pictures are very clear. It's all color, thick magazine print. It gives you a short story on how the flies were developed. It pretty much takes every basic, a nymph, a midge, a dry, and a streamer. Those 4 types of flies are in here. They're very simple, very easy to tie. Materials are easy to source. There's nothing in here that's exotic. Awesome, awesome book. Now, that's cool, but there are a lot of times as a fly tyer, you want to go into the nuance of fly tying. You want to learn some of the older techniques on using just fur and feather and all natural material, not a lot of synthetic material that is available today. So to do that, you actually can go back. This is a very old book. It's just called Fly Tying by William Bayard Sturgis. I believe it was printed in 1938, and other than the thread, everything in here is a natural material. So it tells you the different wrapping techniques, the dubbing techniques. Dubbing is when you would take really fine fur that's been minced and cut and you would twist it onto the thread using wax or a loop, and then twist it and wrap that around your hook to make the body. Excellent books. Another old book that you can find. Here's another one. This one is done by Edison Leonard. This one was printed in the 1940s. Another classic example. These books aren't that expensive, which is amazing. These books, some of these books are 70 years old, 70 to 80 years old. One I've got here that's the next one I'm going to show you is 1965, and I'm going to say this is the creme de la creme of books to have in your inventory. As a sportsman, I have books on hunting and fishing, and I've seen one other book in the hunting world. It was the Hunter's Encyclopedia. It was printed in the 1960s or 70s, and it covered everything in North America, so from small game to dangerous game, from squirrel, badger, groundhog, rabbit, deer, turkey, bear, coyote, moose, all that stuff. And it would give you, the terrain, the region, all that stuff. Great book. I have it. I never saw anything like that for fly fishing or fishing in general until I was looking up an author whose name was A.J. McLean. And apparently he was an editor for Field and Stream. And he published a few books. And his one claim, other than being one of the editors for Field and Stream, was he was the editor and producer of this. This is the Fishing Codex. This is the 1965 first edition of McLean's Standard Fishing Encyclopedia. It is 1,000 pages covering everything to do with fishing. And when I say fishing, I'm talking trolling, bait casting, spin fishing, fly fishing, species, the genus names of the fish, the habitat of the fish. It breaks it down by state in North America, some of the prominent fishing places around the world, such as Argentina, New Zealand, England, Quebec, Newfoundland, all these different places. And it's from A to Z in the world of fishing. And I think the very first thing in here is albacore, maybe, or whatever. It's a list of people that were, Aowa. It's a Hawaiian fish. Never heard of it. Don't know anything about it. All the way to Z. And I want to see what the last, and I was reading some stuff in here that is just phenomenal. And it has that old book smell. Zooplankton is the last word in this book. So if you can find a copy of, and this book I recently got was $9.50. $9.50, and there is so much information in here that it's mind-boggling. It really is. I hope you can go out and start a collection of books. One, books are going the way of the dodo. They're slowly disappearing. They're not a commodity like they used to be because of the interweb. I like the fact that books are tangible. Books have a smell. Books have a texture. Books have kind of a life. You can tell how good a book is by how wore out it is, because somebody really wanted to use that book for its intended purposes, especially if it's a manual of some sort, such as this fly tying book here. This one has some really cool, the previous owner of this book actually underlined certain aspects of the thing. They put notes in it. There's some papers in here with notes. On the blank pages on the before the acknowledge of the book and at the end preface of the book, there's notes in there that the author put in there that he subjected that the author of the book may have made a mistake, or he found that there was a better way of doing it. So when you're out, buy a few books, look into it, take a gander, and sit down, enjoy a nice cocktail, if you will, and maybe a cigar, or if you have a pipe, sit outside on your porch on a nice day, grab a book, and read about the sport that is just amazing. So have a good day. I guess one of these days I could probably do a full library, but that would take a long time. If you have any questions about these books, or where to find these, or if you're curious as to if you want more information on these, I can put them in the comments below about some of these books, and let's share some information. If you have a cool book that I might want to look into, or if you want to know more about some of my books, just comment below. Okay, thank you very much.